Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to episode 249. 249 of the Maniacs Podcast, which means 250 will be this Thursday. What are we doing for our 250th episode, Task? Are we doing dances or we having fun? What do we got planned?
Don't know. I had a thought. Let me see if I can pull it off. You going to be around on Thursday? Definitely.
Yeah, man, I'll be around. Oh, geez, hold on. There goes my mom calling me in the middle of the show. So, yeah. Yeah, man. No, I'll be here. I will be driving back I'll be stopped probably around where I am right now, just in Wisconsin here. So, yeah, I'll be good, man. I'll be good. I'll plan the day to make sure I'm stopped. So, yeah, it'll be fun. You there? No.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. No. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm back in the States for anyone who's keeping track of my journeys. Excited to be back, Task. Very excited. I have my own coffee cream though, and my own coffee, so I don't have to suffer through American truck stop coffee. So there's that.
People were worried about that.
Dude, I was worried about it. So, anyways, what before we get into people's questions, what was the AMA like today, man? What any news, gossip, scandal?
Yeah, nothing major. Just progressing. I thought I latched onto the part that shorts. The target for shorts is High Fest. So to have it up and running by High Fest, which is of course in about 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. So I think that's very exciting. There was an update on labs that took care of some things like the centering issue with the HTML was not working. That's working on labs. So that'll probably be rolled over this Friday. I think that's what they're doing is they're doing the stuff on labs and rolling it over once a week unless there's something urgent that they have to do. But, the ad revenue, more talk about that, and they're working on the evergreen content. And the nice thing about Hive, because of the zero transaction fees, if somebody earns 0.001 Leo from ad revenue, they can distribute that. That's a lot of what cannot be done on Web 2 is you have to have minimum simply from the payment system. It's just not cost effective to send somebody, a payment for 42 cents. But on Hive, we can go to, 0.001 Leo,
right,
and it costs nothing. So, those were the things that stood out. A lot of questions. There were evidently some newbies in the Threadcast. I mean, the Threadcast got over 700 comments in it, so there was a lot of activity, but a lot of newbies, and they were talking about what claimant accounts mean because people didn't know and that type of stuff. So really nothing earth-shattering in that regard, and there probably will not be one next week since Kat and Cal are in Vegas for that thing, and then the following week Cal's in Mexico for Hive Fest. But I think that's a Friday through Sunday thing or Thursday through Saturday thing. So, he'll probably be able to do the AMA then.
I'm close to his stomping grounds. He told me to send him a note when I was back around these parts, but I probably won't be back. Maybe Thursday. So there, I'll get Cal for episode 250. I'll find him. Yeah. I don't think that'll happen because I'm picking up in Kentucky, so I don't think I'll be able to do it. But anyways.
Yeah.
But
so it's nothing earth shattering, just progress. It's like anything else. You make massive changes with 1,000 little changes, and that's what it's at. I mean, correcting bugs and working on, just little things. There's some things on the long form posts where you can get uh, use your keyboard, I believe it is, to get like bold and italic, to be able to click on them, right from there. Just little things like that aren't earth shattering, but you never know. I mean, over time, somebody finds that very useful, and a lot of those little things end up being useful because it's all part of the overall package. Because if one or two people are looking for it and it's not there, they'll be pissed off. I mean, that's just how it works. So
There you go. Yeah, there was kind of some issues over the past couple of days. I mean, it didn't really. It's funny. It affected me the day that I had the downtime where I was like, I'm going to start threading all day, and of course, that's when it ran into issues. So Murphy's Law for me. But
yeah, and I don't know is that node issues, and if it is it API nodes and Leo putting too much and being blocked? Would that be solved once they get their own node going? Is it just Hive nodes in general? I don't know. I had some problems this morning, and I keep getting Deathwing and waiting on that. And so I'm thinking, maybe I should switch to see if Hiveblog or something is better. But,
yeah.
Deathwing was always a good node. So I don't know if it was really the API or, I mean, who knows what it is.
Yeah.
It could be it could be a Leo problem. I usually try to go to labs and see if there's a problem there, and if it's not on labs, then I know it's Leo Finance.
I noticed the issues. I did my Hive goals on Saturday night, and I published it on Leo, and the images never showed up, but they showed up on Peak D, no problem. So that was interesting that they showed up on Peak D, but they didn't show up on Leo Finance.
Did you center them or anything?
No, I just uploaded them like normal.
So you uploaded from Leo Finance?
From Leo Finance, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Anyways, shall we dive into the questions?
Sure.
Let's dive in. And it is dimmed for you guys. I do have it going oldest to newest, so it is refreshing. The Threadcast is up, just so I can keep track of it. Because then if there's new stuff, it comes in here, I think. Anyways, happy 411. What are they doing about the Leo NFTs?
Don't know.
No idea.
I mean, I know as much as everybody else, and it's based upon what they've said on their episodes, and don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I know that when the adoption campaign was going, we all got tagged if we earned one or multiple. So they're in the bank, being created. Don't know.
I mean, on Hive, we don't really have a smart contract platform, so you have to go to Wax or something like that, or wait. I don't know. I guess they could go to Deluxe.
Yeah,
Deluxe does allow NFTs, so they could go there.
Yeah. Nifty has a very important question. He wants to know. He has got a couple, but this one is right up our alley. Does being bald give you an advantage when making financial decisions? Asking for a friend.
Well, it requires a bit of stoicism, honestly, because if you make a financial decision and it goes against you, there's no hair to pull.
Yes.
So you can't sit there looking at the screen yanking on your hair.
Yes.
So it's, and sitting there slapping your head like this doesn't really work. It gives you a headache. So it kind of does change us to have to be a little bit more stoic and take things, as they come, because, we unless there's a cat around to kick, I mean, you're stuck.
Yep. Yeah. Definitely no hair to pull. I could pull my beard, I guess, but I shaved.
You could do that. I can't even do that.
There you go. Dang. Sorry, Nifty. I hate to disappoint you, man, but no advantage at all.
Now, if you meet up with Cal, you can yank his hair. He's got a mop up there that
luscious locks.
Yeah.
Free compliments. Whenever I try to explain inflation to a public audience, I somehow get arrested. Should I start using a different methodology other than taking off my trousers and pretending to be the Fed? You can try that. If it works for you, hey, I don't judge. But there might be a different way of explaining inflation. Task, if someone, a noob, someone who was green, came at you and said, explain to me inflation, how would you explain it to them?
Inflation is an expansion of the money supply. Deflation is contraction of the money supply, period. Milton Friedman, inflation is always exclusively a monetary phenomenon. So that's what inflation is. If your monetary supply is expanding, which for most of us, what we're talking about is legal tender. So if dollars, US dollars or Canadian dollars or euros, if those are expanding, your legal tender is expanding, you have inflation. Doesn't necessarily mean prices are going up. It's only the money supply. That's why when people say, well, what's the inflation of Bitcoin? 1.3%, 1.5%, whatever the hell it is. What's the inflation of Hive? 6.7% or 7% or whatever the hell it is. Notice they didn't say, well, what's it mean on prices? Because inflation has nothing to do with prices. Price increases could be from an expansion of money supply, but price increases could also be from supply chain issues, supply demand disequilibrium. A lot of things come into play. So really the nuts and bolts is the classical definition. Inflation is simply the expansion of the money supply. End of discussion. And if people can't understand that, they really don't know what they're talking about because it's not that complex.
There you go. So that was the way to do it. Free compliments instead of taking your trousers off. But again, if you're doing it that way, we do not judge.
No.
Wes is up. Wealth West got a couple questions. Threads is on the Hive blockchain, as we know. My question is, does thread counts accumulate on all other activities we do on the blockchain? No. You need to use Leo for it to count. And
No. Threads are comments, so they count.
Oh no! Sorry, I thought you meant counting like on the leaderboard. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
No, you're probably right.
To clarify, if you're looking for leaderboard, if you're looking for Leo Finance related stuff or contests or anything like that by Leo, John's absolutely correct. It has to be through the Leo Finance app. But as far as the blockchain, keep in mind, threads are nothing more than comments on a post. And the post is really just a dummy post set up by the Leo Finance account that's a container. And then we're all threading under that. So if you go on Peak D, you look at your comments and then you add another thread, it will register as another comment. So.
Yep. So I guess depending on the question.
Yeah.
But yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense too. He said, I thought we'd be seeing some boost after Bitcoin went up to 27K a few days ago. Any reason why it went back to 25K?
Yeah,
because
more
it's
people
crypto.
selling than buying.
Yeah, it's crypto. People are stupid. And hi Rich, hi Eric. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's crypto. I mean, it's just like you said, Tass. There's more people selling it than buying it.
Just like when it went from 25 to 27, there were more buyers than sellers.
It's and like you mentioned something last week, and I think one of the questions came up when we were talking kind of similar about this topic, and it's like, if you're sitting here thinking the bull market is around the corner, first of all, no one has a crystal ball, but all signs are pointing to the complete opposite. If anything, we're in the winter, and we've been in the winter for a while, because I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the whole world is kind of in a winter since the pandemic and stuff. So I'm not. It's funny because I got asked that. I was driving today and I was talking to my buddy and he wanted to know how my crypto stuff was going. I was like, oh, I'm still stacking. He's like, yeah, but didn't crypto go down to nothing? I'm like, yeah, but I'm still stacking. I don't care. The price is like, yes, would it be nice to Lambo and Wen Moon? Sure. Everyone would like to make a little bit extra here and there, but I'm not here looking for the what the price of Bitcoin is going to be in a week from now. What's it going to be in 10 years from 20 years from now? And I know a lot of people say that's too long to think and whatever, but that's really the game plan, the game strategy I have with this stuff. It's just stack now. And if it goes up, cool, sell some, take some profits. We should learn our lesson from the last time. Take some profits. But if you're into stack mode, you don't really care. You're just stacking. You're not really worried about the price of this stuff, which will drive you nuts if you do worry about the price. So,
yeah, I mean, it's short term. I mean, it's just, can you imagine having a business and, just going emotionally off the edge every time, your company's sales dip by, 2% from last week? You'd be neurotic. It's like, we're building. And I know Bitcoin really isn't a building blockchain, but it's just, markets are markets. And I've watched markets for most of my life. And, I remember a situation where my dad was parroting what they were talking about on the financial news networks. He said, the market's down because oil's down. I'm like, what the fuck is that bullshit? The market's down because oil's down. Oil dropped, so it took the market with it. So I said, okay. And so I pulled up a chart, like, the last 6 months of the stock market in oil. And they went in opposite directions. I said, so why suddenly today is there a correlation when they're going in opposite directions? And of course, I know where he got. He was parrying what they were saying on CNBC or Fox Business or whatever the hell he had on. And it's like, that's what they do. They want, wealth-wise. Why did the market go down? Because there's more sellers than buyers. That's it. You could sit there and say, oh, well, people are not so optimistic about Grayscale. Gary Gensler, he got laid. And so now he wants to beat up somebody, or he didn't get laid. He wants to beat up somebody. I mean, you could go through 1,000 different things. And it's like, short-term moves are just knee-jerk reactions. And the long-term takes out the volatility. Is 10 to 20 years too long? Depends on your age. I think it was J.P. Morgan who said it best. He said, put all your eggs in one basket and watch the basket like a hawk. And that's what you do. I mean, it's like 10, 20 years too long. Well, where are you going to be in 10 or 20 years? I mean, unless you're like 85, where your odds are you're going to be demised. If you're a lot younger, you're going to be somewhere in 10 or 20 years. You may want to have a wallet full of money. And now what will give you that? I don't know. I mean, will it Bitcoin? Will it Hive? Will it Leo? Will it be something else? That's for everybody to decide.
Yep. It's a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's different life situations, right? So I guess you kind of got to, play what you feel is best for your situation. If you're looking for instant riches, I don't care what age you are, this is not the place for it.
I mean, anybody can get lucky, but that's not the norm. Yeah. That's not the percentages. And, there is a fundamental truth. It's called compounding. And one of the elements of compounding is time. And the more time you give it, the more it can compound. And yes, you might have a 1.5 or 2 year bear market, but you might have a 3 or 4 year, 5 year bull run. And, when you compound all of that out over time, plus you're stacking, that's how you can come out after 5 or 7 years, 10, 15, 20, 100 times further ahead than you were when you started.
Yep. Absolutely. Good question, though. I always love talking about markets, just to remind everyone that we have no control over it at all.
Nope.
And he follows that one up with any new updates from the Leo team when short videos on Threads. And you actually addressed this at the start with the AMA today. They said they were hoping for Hive Fest release, right?
Yeah, that was what Cal said the target is. So. And what Richard Taylor said is right. I mean, 10 years short, 20 now. I'll be so old I'll forget what I had. And again, it depends on your age group. And, right. I identify, I guess, with Rich because I'm more at the older end of the scale than most people in crypto. But, when I look at somebody like Cal, who's 25, I mean, a 20-year time frame is
Yeah,
nothing for him.
he 20 years from now, he's my age, and
Yeah,
you're still kicking at 45, Cal. Don't worry, you're still okay, man. Everything still works. Don't worry.
yeah.
It's okay.
Even though at that 25 you thought 40 was like ancient.
Oh, dude, right? Like, man, 40 years old. Like, I remember like the 40-year-old virgin came out, that movie. I was like, man, this is so far away. I was like, no, you're going to be 40.
I think that came out, I was over 40. But anyway, it's you have to work on your own time frame and your own time horizon and your own situation. But there are some fundamental truths. I mean, compounding does have the component of time. You have to account for that. Wealth building happens over time. Yes, there are some who have the get rich quick, but wealth building tends to be the duration of efforts over longer periods of time. And the other fundamental truth of this, it tends to involve asset ownership. You have to own shit. Yes, you could be a superstar athlete or a movie star or something where you get a huge income. But again, that's not the average person. And you look at a guy like Elon Musk. Elon Musk is one of the lowest paid employees in Tesla because I don't even think he takes a salary. If he does, it's nominal. Warren Buffett for years was only paid $100,000 by Berkshire Hathaway. But their compensation comes from bonuses, from options, and of course from just their own holdings and the growth of that. So you have to own assets. So those are some fundamental truths. Now you have to work that into your own situation. And if you're 30 or 25 or 35, you're going to be in a much different position than somebody 55.
There was a great movie back in the 90s called Boiler Room. It was it was the new Wall Street movie, right? And that was how the movie started. Giovanni Ribisi, I think that was the actor. He was the star in it, and he said, like where I come from, you either make it with a jump shot or you're a musical artist, and he was neither. So he got into trading. So it's like you kind of you need because there's you could get lucky, like you said. You might be a really viral TikTok star one day, but it's not everybody. It's not everybody that's a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James. It's not everybody. So what are you going to do? You got to know your situation and act accordingly and operate where you're really good at. Find your lane. Stick with it. So,
did I ever tell you my Boiler Room story?
No, but it's a great movie, man. I got to watch that again.
Well, I knew that guy. I used to caddy for him. He belonged to my dad's country club. The name of the firm in the film was J.P. Marlin.
Yeah, right.
The actual name of the firm was J.T. Moran. John T. Moran was the guy who ran it.
Right.
And he lived in Westchester County, but he had his shop out, I believe, on Long Island there. And I don't know what he ended up under indictment for, but I knew his CFO. I used to caddy for the both of them. His CFO, a guy named Roy Sagittarius, he ended up indicted on 135 counts of insider trading, money laundering. What?
This was based on a real story?
Yeah. Boiler Room was based upon loosely on John T. Moran. Yep.
Wow. I did not know that.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And so that's my claim to fame, that I caddied for the guys and knew the guys who were the motivation for the movie Boiler Room.
Wow. What a great movie, though. That was this it was the Wall Street for my generation. Like Wall Street came out early 80s, so I'm a pup. I don't know what's going on. But Boiler Room was kind of like
yeah.
Anyways.
Rogue Trader was another good one if you haven't seen that. That's that dealt with the Forex market, and that was over in Hong Kong, I believe, or Japan. But that was another good Wall Street type movie.
I like Glengarry Glen Ross, the sales movie.
Oh, that's going way back. Alec Baldwin and
ABC, always be closing.
Yeah, I'll
You
call.
can't have coffee until you make a sale.
Yep, yeah, Jack Lemon in that.
Yeah. That was
Yeah, what
great.
were they selling? Real estate
Yeah,
or something.
something. Oh, dude. Yeah. Nelson, how you doing, man? Captain Silva, welcome, sir. Tokenized up. Hello, Maniacs. What helps you keep going on days when you're not feeling it, dude? I mean, this to me, and again, it kind of goes back to what Tash just said about you gotta. It's different situations for different people, but this is me. It's I know over the 20 plus years that I've been building businesses online and building anything, is that the effort I put in now, it's down the road the rewards. So for me, I'm not looking at it like, oh, I got to go do a podcast today. Oh, it's like, oh, I got to do a podcast today. I got to pull this truck over. I got to find a parking spot because I am going to be doing this podcast that's going to add to the totals that'll help our brand, help our name get out there, help promote Hive, help promote Leo. So what keeps me going, one, is that I'm always thinking future. So I know that even I know not feeling it today, I'm still going to pick up my boots and keep going. The other thing is that if what I'm working for is the future, my family is attached to that. So it's very easy for me to get motivated and say, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to build this because it's going to pay for my kids' college tuition. So that's how I get fired up. But I don't get like inspired, like no offense, Task. I don't hear Taskmaster on Threads and I'm like, oh, Task is pumped up. I'm pumped up. It doesn't, there's the odd guy I'll listen to in a podcast or something that'll get, but that's fleeting. The motivation, I think, has to come from within. You can get inspired by anybody. The motivation, though, has to come from within. Nelson just wants to know, how do you guys promote Hive? I mean, the biggest problem, again, this goes back to something Task and I have talked about for years now on this podcast, is that we try not to promote Hive. I used to promote Hive. I used to talk about Hive all the time. I still do, but I would rather promote the apps on Hive. So when I was into Splinterlands, I'd promote Splinterlands. When I'm into Leo, I promote Leo. ActiFit, I talk about ActiFit. I talk about the apps. I talk about Like2. I use Like2. So for me, the promotion is actually being a product of your product for me. Just using the stuff. But it's the apps, the blockchain, the technology behind it, which is Hive. I think that's kind of weird to promote it that way because most people, that doesn't attract them. Like, we have 3-second transactions. Okay, well, what the hell does that mean to the everyday person? We have transactions that are cleared in less than a second. Okay, we're decentralized. Okay, who cares? That's not what's going to attract someone. Someone's going to be attracted by, oh, you want to promote your political rants. Well, are you sick of getting banned on Facebook? Go use something called Peak D. Go use Leo Finance. Go use Ecency. Go use these tools that you can't get censored on. So, I don't know. For me, promoting Hive is always, I think, a fool's mission, because it's really, really, really hard for everyday person to get attracted to a technology, if that makes any sense. Yeah? No?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that for 2.5 years. In regards to tokenize, I did a video. It's ironic. I did a video earlier tonight. Why are you on Hive? I mean, why are you here? That's what it comes down to. This is what people need to answer the question. If your answer is, I'm here for the rewards, I'm here to make money, you're done. Just leave, because that never is what puts people over the top. And that's where each individual has to determine what it is that drives him or her. What is the passion? What is the mission? What is the driving factor that you want to see? What are you looking to accomplish? What impact do you want to make? That's what people have to answer. I mean, they don't have to. I mean, you could just say, I'm here to clown around and I'm on Threads, or I write these posts, or I put up these pics on Like It Too. Fine, whatever. But as I've said over and over again, you have a Hive account. you have the ability to monetize. That makes you a business. What is driving your business? What are you doing with your business? And that's what gets me up. And I'll tell you, my vision, my mission, I want to see Leo as $100 million project. That's what drives me. Now, I'm not part of the Leo team. I don't do any development. I'm not part of the business team. I don't do any of the marketing. I know as little as everybody else with regards to what's coming up. I mean, the only thing I know is when I get it off the AMA or stuff like that, like everybody else. So I don't have any insider information. I don't have any extra influence. I mean, I could send a DM to Cal just like anybody else, and I get ignored just like everybody else. I submit my stuff on Threads with the feedback tag. He reads it, he makes a note of it just like everybody else, or he ignores it just like everybody else. But I see the potentiality of $100 million project there. Now, will I benefit financially if that happens? Of course. Will things change greatly on Hive if that happens? Of course. Will it put us on the map? Of course. And am I able to get us there by myself? No. But that's what keeps me going. So it's again that compounding stuff. It's like, why do I go back through old articles and rewrite them? I'm not getting anything from them. I mean, I might with evergreen content when that goes into effect, but it's because it benefits the platform. If I have it a little better ICO'd, I use some headers, I get rid of the dead links, I put some, new pictures up and stuff like that, little stuff like that. It's not a magic bullet, but over time, all of that builds. And that's the only thing you can do is just keep building and put more stuff on chain every single day. That, the bigger, I just always look at websites like an iceberg, and the bigger and bigger it gets with the more content, the more those, the search engine Titanic can run into it. And that's what you want.
That's a really good way of looking at it. Hit the iceberg. Nelson brought up a really interesting point. He's talking about Leads Leap, which is this big marketing program, and he approached the owner and said, you could use it to pay your members in Hive and use HBD or Hive. And it's funny, for whatever reason, and maybe people just don't want to part with crypto. For them, it's a lot easier to part with fiat. But like, we have the ability for people to buy and sell, they can buy all of our products. They can upgrade on all of our products, listeners, CTPX, CTP, using crypto. 99.9% of the people still use traditional methods. They do not use crypto. And I don't think it's because it's not easy to use. We have it pretty much designed where it's set it and forget it type stuff. But for whatever reason, people just don't want to part with crypto. And I know this is why I wanted to say this. I knew it would get you fired up. What's it going to take, man? I mean, literally, like, use HBD for the love of everything that's good in the world.
That's people. Why won't people part with crypto? Because everybody's telling us how great crypto is and how the price is going to fucking move.
Yeah, it's going to go to $1 million per Bitcoin. Yeah,
if Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million, I got to be a horse's ass to buy a Cadillac or buy a car or buy a cup of coffee with Bitcoin if it's going to go up 50x. You're a dumbass. You don't use crypto. You don't use value capture tokens for payments because people believe they're going to go up. Whether it's CTP, whether it's Leo, whether it's Hive, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's Ethereum, whether it's, ADA or any of them. If you believe it's going to go up, you're not going to part with it. And this is why when people say, well, pay with Hive or HBD, cut your tongue off if you say pay with Hive. Because if we're telling people this is going to be valuable, why are you telling them to give it away? That's stupid.
Do you think
the HBD, the stable coin, is why you do it. And by the way, I read an article today. Tether is now the 22nd largest holder in U.S. Treasuries in the world.
It's crazy.
Tether is the number one stable coin in the world, not only by distribution, but by payments. by usage. And they got like 80 billion or something like that, whatever it is. It's a crazy number, and that's going to keep going up. That's the point. That's the value of HBD. That's what you use for your payments. That's what every single application on Hive that's accepting payments in any way, shape, or form should be focusing upon. And if somebody says, well, pay me in HBD or Hive, I'm going to call them an idiot. Why are you paying in a Hive?
This is the argument I've heard for this. People don't want to spend HBD because of the 20%. That's why they stick with keeping HBD, because they're earning that 20%. So for them, paying with Hive, 3% if it's staked, 10%, 11% if you're using it for curation. So for them, it's, well, I don't want to spend the HBD because I'm getting 20% on it.
But the price of Hive could triple. I mean, again, if you're doing that, you're an idiot too, because the price of Hive could triple. You don't compare Hive and the APR, and this is the problem with that whole argument that started about, well, we got to get the APR on Hive up. No, you don't. I mean, if you do, fine, but people don't invest in Hive because of the APR. First off, to get that APR, you gotta power it up. It's a 13-week power down time.
Yeah.
Well, guess what can happen in 13 weeks? Well, I'm getting 12% APR. Yeah, but in 13 weeks, the value of Hive could go down 75%. Gee, glad you got that 13%. It went down 75%. They're two totally separate financial instruments. Hive, good, bad, or otherwise, has the speculation component in it. It also has the access token component. It also has utility. Yes, you can generate an APR based upon the adjustment for inflation plus your curation. Curation requires a little effort unless you're just, auto voting it or whatever. But, the main reason why people are going to hold Hive, and the main reason why all of us are holding Hive, is not because of the 3% inflation adjustment, not even for our curation rewards. We're holding it because it's at 28 cents and we believe it's going to be $3.50 or $10 or $100 or $4 or whatever we believe it's going to be. That's why we invest in it. People don't buy General Motors stock because it's paying or I'll give you Apple. They don't buy Apple stock because Apple's paying 2% dividend, which it does. They buy Apple stock because they believe in 10 years' time, Apple stock's going to be worth 6 times what it is today, or whatever they're figuring on it. That's the difference. And to your point, well, I don't want to spend it because of the 20%. It's like, well, do you ever take your money out of a bank account where you're earning interest and go spend it? I mean, it's like, sure, I'd love to have my money in a bank account earning whatever, 4 or 5%, but I have to pay my electric bill. So, I mean, it's, is the 20% attractive? Yes. If I had a choice of paying for something in HBD or using a debit card, would I use the debit card? I mean, that's something I'd have to seriously consider. But at the end of the day, HBD is a transactional coin. And I'll tell you who's transacting with it, the Venezuelans. Some of them have it in savings, but they go and buy lunch with it. They go and buy food with it. They don't have the luxury of saying, well, I'll just use my debit card on the boulevard because, that's really a shit coin. So, it's understanding what these financial products are, understanding why people invest in them, why people hold them. And you don't want to spend the HBD because you're 20%. That's fine. Well, what about the 20% interest? You spend that. You keep your principal and you spend what you garner.
Right.
That's another way. But, ultimately, it's going to come down to generating income, and not just from rewards, but, then you start getting into subscriptions, you start getting into different things, and all of that allows people the ability to garner an income. And what they do with that income, some of it will end up in savings. And I've talked about time vaults, and it looks like those are going to be developed. And so people have an option of locking up their HBD for a period of time for a specific APR. But then you have options of going and hopefully going and gambling with it or going and buying products off of a Hive store of some sort. You have the option of going and paying for subscriptions. You have the option of, using it. I heard Starkers and Dan are getting all kinds of people around Hive Fest, businesses to start accepting payments with the new QR code integration that Keychains developed. And so now they can just, generate a QR code and scan it with your phone, and boom, it sends the payment.
Love
So,
it.
things like that are being developed. And some people, just like with fiat, some people have money in savings. They buy a CD, a certificate of deposit, and they keep it in there, or they'll go get a 6-month money market, get a higher APR. Other people keep it in a checking account because they have to pay a bill next week. So, there's going to be all different types of things that people do, but ultimately the payment systems are going to be the stable coins. And we're already seeing that with the activity of the leading stable coins.
It's kind of out of order here, but Eric Burgoyne asked a question here that goes along with this, and I'll just read it off here because we're talking HBD. He said, is there any other news with what's going on with the rates and the APR? I haven't heard anything since. I mean, they talked about it for that week, and,
Yeah, I mean, the rates are a freely floating thing. I mean, the way it's set up now, it's just, I believe it's the medium of the top 20 witnesses. So if some of them change, which I think some did, but it didn't change it enough to the medium to affect it. I mean, it could change tomorrow. It could stay the same tomorrow. We just don't know. And this is one of the problems, Eric. You bring up a very valid point. It's one of the problems with this as an investment, or drawing this as an investment, because it's variable. It can change at any time. And if you want to bring in, this is where Cal talks about, well, this is a great selling point, we can bring in big money. No, you can't. Because nobody's going to go through the effort to try to get into this with, let's say, $1 million, and it could change tomorrow. Now, if they could guarantee that rate for a year, then you could see people saying, okay, I lock it in for a year. But, that's the situation now. That's why I've pushed for time vaults, because then whatever the interest rates are set, and they can be variable and they can change, but what you get in at is locked for whatever that time vault is. So if you put it in, if let's say it's a 6-month time vault, if you put it in today and whatever the rate is today, you have that for 6 months. If the rate changes tomorrow, you're in at today's rate, up or down. So it doesn't matter. If the rate goes up tomorrow, well, you're in at today's rate. But at least that removes the uncertainty of saying, I don't know, this thing could go away. I mean, what's to say they couldn't move it from 20% to 12%? They could. Well, that's a big difference if you're putting in large sums of money.
Right. Yeah.
So, I think, there's a lot of talk behind the scenes. I think it was brought up enough. I think there was enough people who voiced a differing opinion, including myself. And, some of the witnesses either couldn't be bothered or just said, I don't agree with lowering it or whatever, but as of the last time I looked, it was still 20%. And that said, it could be 19 or 18 tomorrow. It could be 20 tomorrow.
Yeah. Good point. Free compliments. Do you think that Leo can use part of its marketing strategy to attract specific groups of users to specific communities' areas of interest, provided the communities present themselves as receptive to Leo's onboarding plans?
Eric has tried that with communities on Hive, and it didn't have much success. He was trying to bring them over to Threads. It really, I think it only comes down to free compliments, the grassroots initiative. If I'm involved in the basket weaving community and I set up the basket weaving community and I'm involved in other basket weaving communities, if I tell people about that and I have some rapport with them and I have some expertise in basket weaving, or at least viewed as a committed member of the basket weaving community, maybe these people come over. Could you do marketing to target specific communities? Yeah, but I think ultimately what we end up with the problem is it always comes back to, and Hive is not an easy animal. And that's a good thing. I mean, we talk a lot about dumbing it down and making it easy. No, this is a complex organism and it goes in many different directions. And that's why I believe ultimately it's so powerful. It does take commitment, it does take effort, it does take time to learn. But those who are willing to do it can benefit. Those communities that do it, I think, will benefit. Um, so I think it's going to take a couple key people in specific areas who do a lot of hand holding for the members of their community. And so, marketing, targeted marketing to say we'd like to bring over people who are involved in flowers or people involved in travel or, whatever. I mean, I think that's great in theory. I don't know really how much it translates in reality. And I say that coming from the perspective of Ghana, Sucre, some of these areas where we do see success. Okay, granted, it's geographic. It's not necessarily subject or topic, but it's geographic, and it was grassroots. It was people, boots on the ground in those areas who got other people in that area to come in. A lot of hand holding, a lot of, Jon Snow and Amundo and M Coins and McSams in Ghana. They do a lot of hand holding. And, I think that's really what's needed. And communities that do that and members of Leo, just to bring it back to Leo, who have other interests, who are involved in other communities, where it's travel or photography or, Eric, chess. I mean, he evidently likes chess. He talks about it. If he had a chess community and he started to reach out to some of those other online platforms that he's interacted with, if he had with chess, I think that would be the way to do it, because then the community could multiply its own numbers and its effectiveness. Is it worth a shot to do some targeted marketing by Leo? Sure. We do have the communities feature. I just question how effective it would be, but worth a shot.
Good point. Bradley Arrow, I will be listening in the morning, but here's a question. What is the biggest, newest, or the time frame for the next big thing on Hive or Leo? The next big thing.
I think shorts is the big thing on Leo. I'm personally
shorts, but I think it needs to coincide with the Leo rebrand. I think.
Well, that's yeah. Thanks for reminding me. That's supposedly there's a Zealy campaign kicking off. I guess it's going to be different from the last Zealy campaign. Cal said they learned from the last one, but that the rebrand will coincide with that. The only thing that's happening is Leo Finance is staying. It's just going to drop down a level to community. There will be a new URL and a new logo. I'm going to presume, it was never said, I would think it's going to be around Leo somehow, the lion type mentality. I would think that nothing was said about that, but really the rebrand is a new URL and a new logo. So a more encompassing URL is what it is. And then Leo Finance will be a community just like any other community that people set up.
Yeah. Nifty wants to know, is Vim dead because we don't stream on Vim anymore? No, Vim keeps saying that they're still working on things in their Discord. The update was this morning saying that they have narrowed down what happened and they are fixing it, making sure that there's no more abuse potential before they turn everything back on. So, yeah, I have no idea. It's not dead, though. It's still there. And this was Eric's question here. Evidence, this is free compliments. This is from previous. He said, evidence shows that Viagra can simultaneously cause expansion of the economic monetary supply and the deflation of individuals' monetary supply and ego. Hence, by definition, Viagra causes inflation and deflation. Hive solves this.
Yes,
That's
and as I've always said,
brilliant.
the switch from inflation to deflation can be very, very quick.
Very
And
quick.
there's an example. I
Yeah.
am just reading through the comments, and first, yeah, this is how you teach these principles, John. You equate it to penises and Viagra, and people understand.
It
Uh,
always works. Yes.
yeah. Richard Taylor said shorts have been talked about for a long time in the Sooniverse. LOL. Yes, and Cal has said repeatedly, it's a very difficult programming issue because they're dealing with somebody else's infrastructure. This is going to tap into or pull from three speak. So it's not like
Right.
they're designing it on their own. They're integrating it into three speak, which means that they have to tie into their code base. Then the other one there, the government took a lot of the zeros away. He's talking about the Bolivar, but still hard to trade with the local currency. We're using HBD in Sucre and hopefully all of Venezuela. Uh, we'll get on soon. Uh, yeah, I mean that's the problem. When I talk to people about the U.S. dollar, the ones I don't have to explain the U.S. dollar to are people like John in Venezuela, to people like those in Nigeria, to those in Ghana, to those in Central America. I mean, when you're dealing with a currency like the Bolivar, which has been, quite frankly, one of the worst over the last 5 years, but actually, John, I don't know if this is any comfort. It's probably dropped down or improved a little because the Argentinian peso and the Turkish lira have taken over the throne as out of control currencies. But when you start to get these wacky currencies in these developing nations, the U.S. dollar denominated assets are a lifeline. And I was talking to Starkers about this. He travels around, and I asked him flat out. I said, "Was there ever a country you went to that did not have an understanding of the U.S. dollar?" He said, "No," and he said, "In fact, every country I've been to that I've looked, there was a black market for U.S. dollars because they're all banknotes. They're physical." And so Jon Snow and the other people in Venezuela, they have two choices: either deal with the Bolivar, or if they want to deal in USD, they have to go get the physical currency, which is dangerous, which can be expensive depending on the black market, all this other stuff. Uh, Now with HBD, they get a US dollar denominated asset right on their phone. They can pay using the Hive blockchain. They have their own wallet. Merchants aren't hit at 2% or 3% like they are with Visa. And there's nobody going to whack you over the head and take your dollars away from you. So people need to understand that's an extremely, extremely valuable uh, asset for a lot of people. I mean, much of the world. People don't realize that, and this is the one thing about the argument against, fake coin or whatever people want to call it. 75% of physical dollars are outside the United States. People use the US dollar banknote as a defense against their own government. And Jon Snow and the people in Venezuela are a prime example where HBD is a defense against the Venezuelan government and whatever wacky shit they do with the Bolivar. And it's not all the Venezuelan government and the central bank there. There's other things that the U.S. government is doing to make life very difficult for the Venezuelans too. But the point being, this is a lifeline for these people, and this gets them into something very easily that, quite frankly, changes the economic conditions because they don't really care what happens. I mean, not that they don't care because they still have to do a lot with the Bolivar, but they're less exposed to the gyrations of the Bolivar when they have access to HBD.
Beautiful. Couple questions here. Free Compliments is saying, don't neglect your health because the longer you live, the more time you have for compounding. I like it.
It's true.
Yep. Dropping heavy facts, Django. That's from Nifty. Thank you. Captain Silva's got a little dance. He said, here he is. He's found it. So that's good. And this kind of goes with what we just talked about. He said, in countries that allow crypto, how can I use Hive HBD to make a store online payments? Well, HivePay does that. It's owned by HashKings now, but we developed it in CTP. So it's literally just like plug and play. You take the not the QR code, but the QR code is also, it's there in Keychain as well. But HivePay is just like PayPal. Just copy and paste the IPN and put it on your site. You can accept pretty much any payment you want from the Hive ecosystem. And then finally, he says, also, I was trying to watch what was going on with the BRIC nations in August, but no news about it. Did Taskmaster hear anything about it more, if it went through or not? I also hear that if it did start, Biden will have to enter into the war. You know anything about that?
What is he talking? What went
BRIC.
through?
BRICS, the BRIC, I guess the BRIC that.
Oh, their gold-backed currency?
Yeah, their gold-backed currency, I'm guessing, yeah.
No, of course that wasn't announced. That was just gold bug delusion. What they said is, and I mean the finance minister of India, said back in July they weren't even bringing it up, and it was reaffirmed. They want to do more. They want to do more trade with their local currencies, especially the Indians. The Indians want to make the rupee an international currency. Now, while this sounds all well and good coming out in 2023, doesn't take much. Do a quick Google search. They said the same damn thing in 2010. So 13 years later, they're saying, we want to do more trade in local currencies. And if you're old enough, this stuff with the BRICS, which, by the way, Xi isn't showing up to the G20 because him and the prime minister or the president of India are pissed at each other. So, India and China getting along it hasn't happened in 1,000 years. And they're part of this coalition. They're two of the main players in this coalition. But anyway, if you're old enough, all of this sounds very familiar. We all heard it when they were pushing the euro and the design of the euro. And they talked about what the GDP was of all these countries in Europe and how it was going to rival the US, and they'll create this currency and it will take out the dollar and they'll bring the reserve currency back to Europe, yada, 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 yada. And where is it? Since that time, the dollar's only gotten stronger. The euro probably isn't going to make it to 2030. The EU, I think it'll be a skeleton of itself if it's even standing by 2035. I mean, that's ground zero for the implosion. So, I mean, you have to understand what makes these things valuable. And that's why pointing to Tether and what they're doing, and I'm not a fan of Tether. I'll agree with every argument against Tether. But when you start to look at the network effect and the ability, when you have 70 or 80 billion tokens out there in a circulating supply, and when it is the number one used currency. Now, granted, it's not used a lot for commerce, and it isn't tied to anything of value in terms of being used in derivatives and stuff like that. So there's still a huge window. But you have to understand what makes these things valuable. And it's not for the dollar. It's not the petrodollar. It's not the size of the trade. It's certainly not the faith and credit of the United States government. I mean, who trusts those assholes? It's much deeper than that. The tentacles extend much further. And part of it is just what I said. I can sit here and say to a guy like Jon Snow, I'm going to send you $50 in an envelope. And if it doesn't get absconded somewhere along the way, he'll love it because he knows exactly what to do with it. That's different. If I send him €50, I mean, what's he going to do with it?
Yep. Good point. Dude, 249 in the books. So next episode is 250.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday. I hope people are ready. They're not. Maybe. Anyways. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for the questions, the interaction, the live audience. We appreciate you all. Have a fantastic evening. We will see you in about 47 hours from now. I did the math, right? 47?
And I didn't even notice. Did you take your shoes off?
I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're sleight of hand. Remind me never to play poker with you. You must be very quick because I didn't see you using your toes to count that.
I was counting. Yeah.
I mean, I won't play poker with you. You'll clean my clock.
Toodles, guys.